All right, welcome back. Today I want to get into more on spiral dynamics. If you have been following along with my logic in regard to how development's taking place, you know that there are 4 or 5 major stages and they go in cycles, which means there are only 5 real stages before you have a repeat, not necessarily 12, but there might be 12 or something like that, where there's a wider cycle. Because lately, I don't know the exact stage I said I was in, but basically there's Ruby Red, right? Let's just throw out names. That's the one I was in like a few months ago. The one before Ruby Red, we labeled it Blue Sapphire. And then the Topaz I kept from Ethan years ago. He deleted that video, but he called it Topaz, and I called it Topaz just to as a sentiment. But the Ruby Red stage was last month, and the one after Ruby Red, I don't know what I called it, but it's a feminine stage, quote unquote. These are just labels we throw around just to make it easier with opposites and pendulum swinging, which was part of the original theory of Claire Graves. So this color not necessarily is masculine or feminine, but it's this feminine stage, whatever that means. What color are we going to call it? I generally go with between purple, blue, red, and I try to find variations of like the same colors we've been using. And I don't know what would go well. But what I do know about this stage, let's just call it X color for now. X color stage, I hope you can hear me. I started being very selective with who I'm friends with. And there's a part of me that was very wildly enthusiastic to be inclusive in how I form groups. So that would be in Topaz. Now the wild enthusiasm would be from not recklessness, but the open-mindedness about what you can accomplish despite the impracticality. That would be an allusion to stage orange, in my opinion, and stage red. Which is why my Topaz could be another person's coral, right? People could say that about me, that you're 4 stages off. But no, I don't think so. I don't think so. So the way I see it is that now there's no more wild enthusiasm. The wild enthusiasm is gone. Now I'm very discerning on how I decide who should be in this framework of thought. Now, of course, this exists in stage orange in regard to methodology. If you want to understand something, whether or not it's true, you're going to be very concrete with how you go about that. And so what exactly is going on with stage orange that makes them that way? That makes them so rigid? No, you have to do it in this way. You have to have this line of reasoning and this thought process. And I don't have that much rigidity in this X color of the feminine stage. But I think there is a comparison. And the comparison is better associated with stage blue in regard to one particular aspect. Which people are people that I would want to interact with, that I would want to be a part of an organization. So this applied also in Topaz, with being very selective with regard to who comes in and who doesn't, but I wasn't selective. I was very rushed. I'm thinking now, at this point in the game, I think that this color, whatever is past Ruby Red, you're more inclusive. And I'm going to have to think about why this is the case. And this may have something to do with the pendulum swing pattern. Very simple, very basic. And I'm probably going to make another video that factors in, as I evolve, what similarities are in play. Like, for example, I just reached out to old friends, and old friends have been coming back into my life. The fact that this is coming to fruition tells me it's an inclusive stage. Obviously, that's feminine, okay, in how the pendulum is swinging. But it's more than that. I also have discernment. There are certain people that I do not want to associate with at a particular time. And I do want to associate with at a particular time. And it's not for the sake of getting anything. It's more of like a desire to connect because it's a realization about the oneness aspect. Again, I had someone who said, "You're in stage turquoise recently." If I had to guess, but he doesn't realize all the stages in between that I've been through. But what I did appreciate about what he claimed, obviously I disagree with him, but I'm not insulted because stage turquoise is a very late stage, obviously. But it's not grasping fully my take that we're going in cycles. Now, from a linear standpoint, that could be claimed, but I say that the reason why people get confused within the model of spiral dynamics is because people have already gone through a full cycle of 5 or 4.5 or whatever I labeled it as, and so the confusion as a result of those cycles happening over and over again, and it leads to different personality traits, different value systems that are associated with that spin. And this was called SWS, spirals within spirals. And so the claim that I'm in turquoise is more of like the same claim that you would say, oh, he's in violet or teal. Teal in regard to the regular model. Or similar to saying he's in clear light. Because in these feminine stages, there are similarities because the pendulum is on this side versus that side, inclusive versus exclusive. Well, actually, we talked about exclusive versus inclusive, and we said that inclusive could be exclusive because the feminine stage is inclusive. We want to create a framework, but simultaneously, by creating that framework, you're also making sure that no one comes in. So you're creating. So therefore, we have to cancel out and say no. The best way to understand the pendulum is not inclusive versus exclusive. It's collectivity versus self-centeredness, or singular focused. Me versus we, I versus we. And if that's the best way of putting it, then I think that's the case. Right now, I'm in a we stage, but the we is specifically exclusive in the sense that I'm pinpointing, and therefore it has an association with blue, right? You can't simply go into a blue environment and expect them to feel comfortable praying in their houses of worship as a standard rule. I mean, nowadays things have become modernized. It's very different. But this was the standard rule in the old days because there's this desire for collective identity. If you're different, if you look too different, then that collective identity kind of gets messed with. Give me an allusion to your sympathies, to your consolidation, that you're with us here. That's why people who join monasteries, they shave their heads, even though they're not Buddhist. And that's why people who join communities, they act similar, even though they acknowledge they're completely different outside of various frameworks. It's solidarity, that's the word. It's to show solidarity subconsciously, and eventually that affects the identity. But the community wants this. It's something interesting to think about, how these patterns are taking place from swing to swing. That's really what I wanted to say.